This time of year, and maybe even throughout the year, people are evaluating their resolutions, and there's a lot of chatter that I hear all the time. I don't want to set goals anymore because I don't like how it feels when I fail. I had one person say to me, I don't set New Year's resolutions or even goals anymore because I don't like to let myself down. And if I do set a goal, I won't tell anybody because I don't want to let anybody else down. And I want to challenge you to maybe step back from that if you're there, if you're that person that's so frustrated with yourself that you feel like you procrastinate or you feel like you constantly just kind of fall short. And there's some things you can do to shore up your progress so you don't procrastinate. But really, I got to tell you, failing is part of the process. And so maybe let go of the rope on being perfect. Again, those of you that have heard me talk about this before, we had this whole war in a place called heaven that we chose to take on this agency, and we chose to take on this purpose, and we chose to come down here and to live in this planet together. Part of that process is to own the fact that you're going to fail, and you're going to fail quite a bit. And part of the trial and error is finding joy in the failure, finding joy in the process. If you fail and then you constantly are looking back at that failure, beating yourself up, you're probably going to miss the next 5 shots that you take. Michael Jordan, who is famous for that, these game-winning shots. And he stated once, and he gave some stats with this statement. You can look up the quote, but he stated that he failed over and over and over again. And that's why he succeeded. I think he stated that at that point, he had really blew 26 games with a game-winning shot that he missed. And he said that you don't really make any shots that you don't take. And so you're going to miss some shots. And if you can let go of the rope of perfection and just enjoy the process and literally just quickly learn something from each mistake and then let it go, move on. And that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about goal setting. We're talking about moving away from procrastination, moving away from frustration, moving away from anything except for growth, learning, and achieving your goals in a successful way. I want to remind you that you do have a governing purpose that runs your life. Now, some of you maybe haven't defined it in writing. You don't have a mission statement or what I would call a governing purpose statement. And I think everyone should. So I think if you haven't, take a moment or an hour or two, pause this. I'll still be here when you unpause me, and go just sit by yourself and think about your individual governing purpose for this life. What matters to you? What are the values? What are the character traits that you aspire to? Now, do not make a list or a sentence or two of what you're already perfect at. I want you to just tell me what you aspire to. Do you want to live in integrity? Do you want to live in service of others? Do you want to obtain wealth? Do you want a 4x4 pickup truck that is the best truck on earth? That whatever kind of long range purpose you have, I would like you to just write it down. And remember, a purpose statement is not a goal. You can't reach the end of your purpose. It's eternal. So if I want to be the father of 3 children, I can achieve that goal by having 3 kids. Done. And like we spoke about before, the Neil Armstrong and those gentlemen went to the moon, and there's some statements made that was their life purpose. Once they landed on the moon, walked on the moon, jumped in the spaceship, came back to Earth, they basically had no more that they could accomplish. Progress was over, growth was over. Alcoholism set in on one of them, and another one of them had just an incredible depression. And really, it's because they forgot to set a purpose statement in their minds, and then they forgot to drill that purpose statement deep, that it was I want to be the greatest astronaut ever. See, you can always go to another level. It's like Pac-Man. Those of you that are my age, I don't know that Pac-Man had an end. There's always another level. And so think through the lens of it's an eternal purpose statement. It's one that is, I want to be an incredible husband and father. I want to serve my fellow man. I want to be a productive member of society. I want to be able to have a solid sense of self and education and continue to progress and grow. See, I can't achieve and finish anything in there, but it gives me purpose for goals. Like, if I want to become educated, what am I going to read this year? If I want to be an incredible father, what am I going to do as a dad this year? And so think through the lens of creating a governing purpose statement for yourself. And if you're a married person, after you both have a purpose statement, sit with each other and create a marital purpose statement, because that's the highest aim. Creating family is the highest form of growth, the highest form of purpose that there is. And so you have an individual purpose that matters, makes you a whole person. Two whole people combining their talents into a governing purpose for the marriage can be incredibly powerful and a force for good in every community that they live in. Once you have these purpose statements and you're solid, you're able to now set goals that matter. So I'm going to talk with you about some reasons people procrastinate and some reasons that people don't achieve their goals. The number one reason we just spoke of is the purpose isn't solid, personal, or sound. It's not. It doesn't give you a big reason why. And like so many others before me have said, if the bigger the reason why, the more you're apt to accomplish your goal. If you don't have a very big reason why, chances are your goal's not going to have any potency. Chances are your goal's not going to have the juice to really motivate you to get out of bed in the morning. So if I kind of want to learn how to box, or if I kind of want to do 50 push-ups sometime this year, and I kind of think, I don't really want to, but I think I should. Somebody said I should, but my dad wants me to, my wife wants me to, a couple of my buddies are already doing it, and so I should. See, that's not a very good goal, but I want to be an incredible father and grandfather to my grandkids, which means I've got to be healthy. If I want to be able to play with them and keep up with them, I've got to be healthy. And to be healthy, I've got to do calisthenics, and push-ups are really good. So I'm going to get to where I do 50 push-ups because that'll help me with my grandkids. Now that goal has some potency for me. Now for me, that would be a driving force. I would remember every time I thought about missing doing my exercises to get to those 50 push-ups, I would think about my grandkids. I'd think about wearing out before they wear out and needing to leave Disneyland 5 hours early because I was too tired. And if I can't hang with them, I'm sad. And so I'm going to go to work on those push-ups because it matters now. So you got to find purpose, and then you won't procrastinate. You'll feel something inside. And again, it pulls you away from doing it for someone else, and it pulls it into doing it for that inner soul of yours. Second one, believe in your goal. If you don't want to procrastinate, and if you don't want to let yourself down, or if you don't want to just be frivolous with your goals, then don't set goals that you don't believe in. So I'm 50 some odd years old, okay? If I set a goal to, in 5 days, do 300 push-ups and 200 pull-ups without stopping, I know I'm going to fail. Or if I set a goal that by tomorrow or by the end of this year, I want to be 6'10", and right now I'm 5'7", I know that I'm not going to be 6'10" by the end of the year. I know in this life, I'll never be 6'10". Okay, so I have to set goals that I actually believe in. So I challenge you to set a goal that you believe in and then stretch a little bit, maybe 10% stretch. So I'm pretty sure that in 3 months, I can do 200 push-ups without stopping. So I'm going to do 225 push-ups without stopping in 3 months. That's one of my goals, okay? So I want you to think about, what are your goals? What goals have you set in the past that you failed at? Did you not have strong purpose, a big reason why? Did you not believe enough at the beginning of the goal? Did you set it because somebody else dared you to, or because you thought you wanted to impress someone by stating it? Or honestly, are you that person that just feels an intense amount of motivation when you set big goals, but you really back of mind don't believe it? You just like to feel good for those couple of days that you're like getting the ball rolling, and then you drift away and you know you're not going to do it anyway. So you almost set goals for that adrenaline rush of the goal. I've had friends and coworkers and companions that have done that. Back in the day as an LDS missionary, I remember some of my companions setting these outrageous goals. It'd be super motivating, lots of juice, but then hit the streets, talking with people, it would kind of deflate. And so it only felt good for those moments when you were just talking about it. So we want to get away from just talk. We want to get to reality. Big reason why: solid belief, and then stretch just a little bit after your belief. And then the next one is super important. This one's the one I spoke of earlier. You have finite time, but infinite potential. Okay? So that messes with us. Finite time meaning you have, like, definitely you have 168 hours a week. That's it. 168 hours. You have to sleep some of them. You have to prepare meals some of them. You have to, there's probably some work you're going to do that take you away from, working on, if your goals are like exercise related, or if your goals are education related. There's times you can go to work and become more educated and progress, but then you're going to put your book down that you're reading and go to work. So in 168 hours, there has to be room for grace. What I mean by grace is the learning from failure along the way. So I know so many people, and I've even done this, sadly. It's you go to the gym because, let's just pretend, it's so easy to talk about. You got an exercise goal. I want to lose 50 pounds and I want to do 225 push-ups. And so I go to the gym Monday, go to the gym Tuesday, I'm doing really good. Wednesday, I sleep in and I blow off the gym. And I think, I failed. I'm so discouraged that I don't go to the gym Thursday, and I say to myself, I'm just going to start again Monday. And then next thing I know, I'm starting again the 1st of February, because you want to start on a solid month. And all of a sudden you're not doing your goal anymore. And it's really because you failed one day and you dragged that failure into, that's all you thought about, is you're a big failure. What if you were more like the Michael Jordans of the world, the success stories of the world, where, what did I learn from that Wednesday morning that I slept in? I learned that I've got to get to bed just a little bit earlier. I've got to talk with my family about getting to bed a little bit earlier, quieting the house down a little bit, just a half hour earlier. And then I know I can get up. And then Thursday morning, try that and get up. If I don't get up Thursday morning, what do I need to learn from that? But stop thinking about Wednesday on Thursday. Okay, I challenge you to stop brooding about the past failure. Stop brooding about the failure you had 10 years ago. Some of you need to stop brooding and ruminating over the failures you had a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades ago. Let the box of rocks go. Give yourself grace. Renew your commitment and learn something from the past, and then move forward unburdened. So as you exercise grace, you'll stop getting discouraged and quitting. Now, some people out there are saying right now, yeah, but that's like mediocre. Like, you can't just let go failure like it's willy-nilly easy to do. Well, actually you can. I want to ask the question, why can't you? Why can't you fail over and over again, learn something from that moment, and then release it into the ether, let it go, forgive self, trust that God forgives you, and move on unburdened? Why not? To me, the only requirement is to pause and make a decision on why the failure happened, what was the circumstance, and is there anything you have power over to do? If there is, do it. Let it go, move on. If you fell again, there must be something else you can do. Each time you're going to grow. If it's out of your control, then you have to manage it. If it's somebody else's weakness that's maybe a roadblock for you, you have to manage that. You have to communicate. But regardless of what the reason, all I expect and all I think that any higher power expects of you is any heavenly parents expects of you is to like pause and learn something from the failure, and then recommit, reconnect with self, and move forward, progress, unburdened. Remember, we talked about you only have 168 hours a week, and you've only got a handful of decades that you're going to be on this earth. And so there does need to be a prioritizing of your time. See, sometimes these goals can absorb so many resources. There was a time in my life, I was a father of three, awesome kids that were really busy. My wife and I were, starting this business, the Ascend counseling business. We called it the Counseling Experience back then. And it was just the two of us, and it was like pretty busy. And I decided to do an Ironman triathlon. And so there's one in St. George that came through here, and it was like, it was really motivating for me to like bike, run, swim, or swim, bike, run. No wonder I failed. So we got rolling into the training, and I realized that to do a really good job on this Ironman, I was going to have to train about 40 hours a week. Now, I was working 60 hours a week. I was trying to be a dad another 50, 60 hours a week on full time, really. And I needed to sleep sometimes. So I needed to sleep another like a whole bunch of hours, another 60 hours a week. So the writing's on the wall. There's not enough hours in the week. There's like, I'm already 17 hours over what there is. And so I decided to push into my sleep time with my training time. I was getting up at 2 a.m. And anyway, the bottom line is I worked myself into, I've got this stomach disorder called Crohn's, not the point of the story, but I triggered that, got really sick, and was knocked down right on my back, like near death for like 4 months. And I probably wasn't actually near death, but I'm wimpy, so I felt like I was going to die. And during that 4 months, my training suffered, my muscles weakened, my stomach was like giving me all kinds of grief. And so bottom line is I did not prioritize my time well at all, and I ended up sick, and I ended up failing at the Ironman. Now, I've let that failure go. There's a little part of me now and again that nags that I've got to complete an Ironman here in St. George at some point. I've done some triathlons and some Ironman in other places, but not this one. And so the idea is what did I learn from it? I learned that if I have dad commitments, work commitments that I do not want to get out of, then I can't add 60 hours or 40 hours a week of something else. I've got to learn to do the whole let go of some things to add some things instead of just keep adding things. And so what I want to challenge you to do is, as you prioritize your time, there's 2 trajectories to think about. And we're going to put these trajectories in the workbook. Number 1 is if you're setting a goal this year right now that is supporting something you're already doing. So if I'm already a dad and I want to be a little bit better, I want to like focus on my daughter a little bit more, because my daughter and I might be, let's just pretend I'm struggling with her in our relationship. And so to focus a little bit more of my time on her, if I've got 2 sons, and if I want to focus a little bit more time on maybe doing something specifically with the boys in the family, then I would add that time in, and I would it would be easier to carry on because I'm already doing a 90% good job. I want to just go up 5%. So time commitment isn't as big a deal on something I'm already doing. I just want to do a little better, want to tune it up. And so that one you want to think about, like, okay, so how am I going to tune it up? How am I going to use the same amount of time, but use it wiser, do it better? The other kind of commitments that come with a goal is like that Ironman. It's when you're doing a change in course. You're like going to change, like to add 40 hours of exercise when in the past you're doing 10 hours of exercise. That's 30 more hours. The challenge is when you change your course of life for a goal, the challenge is you can't add 30 hours to your schedule without taking 30 hours from something else. If you do that like I did, you're just going to wear yourself out, or you're going to like burn yourself out one way or the other. So if it's getting better at what you're already giving time and money to, time and resources to, there's not a lot of change of your schedule that perhaps needs to happen, just do better. If you have to change your whole schedule, you got to stop everything, look at your schedule, you got to write it down, and really make sure that you've got the time commitment. The three budgets that seem to matter a lot with goal setting is time budget, that's the biggest one. Dollar budget, that's another pretty big one. And your energy reserves, what do you have the actual energy for, matters. So those three budgets, when setting goals, matter. And you've got to make sure that you understand, am I changing a portion of my life, or am I enhancing what I'm already doing with this goal? And so as you make that decision and prioritize your time, you're now in a place where you've got the main things that stop people. If you have a strong sense of purpose and a big reason why, if you believe in your goal, like you can see the end, you can see the steps taken. There's not these big gaps and there's not this disbelief. If you have committed to give grace to yourself, so the minute you fail, you're just going to pause, learn something from the failure, and then what you're going to do with that knowledge is move forward unburdened by the failure, okay? If you're really willing to prioritize your time in such that you know whether you're going to enhance what you're already doing, or if you're changing your schedule up completely, those things matter. And so you've got to make sure that you're looking at your calendar, you're looking at your day-to-day hourly schedule, and make sure that you're on track to not burn out. Okay, so if you prioritize your time well and do those other things well, you won't procrastinate and you won't let failure get in your way. Okay, all right, so all of that was foundation. Now we're going to teach you now I'm going to talk with you about and put in this workbook the 4 steps or stages of creation. You're going to love this. This is taught in some of the holiest places on earth. This is taught in anywhere where real, true truth seekers are going to figure out how to do life and to figure out how to set and achieve the goals necessary to be wildly successful. These 4 stages. Now, they get different titles. They get different labels at times. I'm going to give them almost the most proper labels possible so that you can just memorize them. And then you can do whatever you want with them. But if you follow this blueprint, you will never fail. That's a guarantee. You might fail in steps, but long term, eternally, you will be completely successful. And it's kind of like you might miss a few touchdowns, but you'll win the game. It's that mindset, and it's just real. So as you're sitting down right now and reevaluating or evaluating for goals and for where you want to progress, the very first thing is vision. Okay, so the first stage of goal setting is, what is your vision? Like, what is the vision of that goal? Now, do you remember we talked about that governing purpose? These goals are servant purposes to that. They have to support your purpose. And if you're a married person, if you want to stay happily married, your goals have to support your marital purpose, okay? Now, if you're connected with your spouse, through each of you whole people with purposes, like you have a whole self, and you've combined your energies together into one force for good, you've sealed yourself together in such a way that your marriage is strong, you're committed, connected, you have the romance and the passion. As you set these goals, let's say that my wife has nowhere in her purpose or her marital purpose with me is to deal heroin. So I can't do a Breaking Bad moment and go and start a meth lab and sell meth, or start a heroin farm and sell heroin, or however they do heroin. I see that's my ignorance. But the idea is, I can't set a goal to be the best heroin dealer in the universe. I can't set a goal to sell 10 pounds of heroin a day, because that would wreck my personal purpose as well as my marital purpose. So as you have these visions, does the vision of your goal match who you are and who your companionship and you are trying to be together? And so if you've got this vision should have you be able to clearly see the end result of the goal, where you're headed with it, and have it be measurable along the way. Okay, and so now you've got this strong sense of vision. Now, when you have that vision created and you've written it down, you've got it like clearly, you can almost taste it. You can see it so clearly and you can see each of the steps. Now, you might learn stuff along the way as you do those steps, right? But you do have those steps defined. And as you manage those steps, you then start to realize there's resources that you need to give. So all of the steps, like I need an exercise plan, that's a resource. I need time, that's a resource. I've built out a home gym in my house. It's about a 800 square foot room filled with gym equipment and a washer and dryer. Not the point. Point is I put money into that. I purchased a bunch of Steve Cook's equipment, and it feels like that was a financial resource that I used. And so there's, for your goal, whatever it is, it's going to have its set of resources. And so once I built the home gym out, dedicated the time to it, now I've got to make sure I've got the energy for it. I've got to sleep enough. I still have to work. I still have to do dad stuff and granddad stuff. And so as I'm putting it all together, I've got it calendared. I've got the finances dedicated to it, and I got the time dedicated to it. And I've got the energy dedicated to it. So the resources have to be acknowledged. You can't just start running and hope they fall into place. Okay, that's a big lesson that I learned on when I trained for that Ironman a decade ago, 2 decades ago. So as you dedicate resources, time, energy, money, products, tools, knowledge, there's maybe even a never-ending list, but you'll know what it is when you have a clear sense of vision. So stage 1 is vision. That's the spiritual creation of the goal in your head, and then you write it down. Stage 2 is gather resources. So there's all this matter unorganized out there. There's money out there, there's time out there, there's all this stuff. Pull it into the goal and say, can I do this? This is what I need. And once you've got this sphere where your goal sits, where it's being created in your soul, and you start putting resources in, then you need to do this thing that is probably the hardest one for me. So far, this is all pretty easy for me because I'm so attention deficit that it's actually fun for me to create things in my mind. But then to actually go do them, I run out of steam. And sometimes I get bored, or sometimes I just don't make a plan. So that third step, the third stage of this 4-stage plan, is plan and schedule. Okay, so you've got your vision, you've got the resources gathered. Now the plan is when you organize the resources that you need to use, put them in a schedule and start doing it. And it'll start producing a result. That's mandatory. When you start acting out with resources that have been dedicated, results happen. So I want to throw to you that the plan will address places that you might fail. The plan is where you might realize, like, I don't have the time that I thought I had. So we have to really be careful as we plan things before we actually hit the road running, have the plan in place. So if I decide to set a plan or a goal to lose 50 pounds by next Thursday, then when I really actually map that out, that means that's 8 days. So Thursday's tomorrow, so a week from tomorrow, let's just say, 50 pounds in 8 days. Holy smokes, that's going to be 6 2/10 pounds a day. And I'm going to realize I don't have that time or energy or commitment. I don't believe I can do that. And so once I do that, I have to adjust my goal perhaps. And so when you actually put the plan on paper in your schedule, it becomes more real. It becomes, now I'm doing something. And so you want to address time constraints, address resource constraints. You want to make sure that in that plan, you can actually see that it's going to work, and then you start acting, you start doing it. So the plan phase will produce a result, okay? As it produces results, that gives us to stage 4. Stage 4 of goal setting, and you can tell this is easy, but it's a little technical. A lot of times we skip most of this, and that's why we burn out of goals by January 11th. And so this fourth step is super, super, super important. They all are important. This one's equally important. You take the results produced from your plan and you report back, you return back to your vision, and you assess, is these results actually achieving the vision that I had at the beginning of this? Now that vision is a servant or supports your life purpose and your marital purpose if you're a married person. And so if you check back to the vision and the results enhance your vision, it makes your vision work, and it's like pulling together just fine, keep doing it. If you report back and return to the vision and the results that you're getting are not supporting that, you got to change something. That's where you have grace. You repent, if you will. You change courses if you don't like the word repent. And you start acting slightly different. And then you report those results back. And so the funny thing is this is the monotonous part that some people just skip. They just kind of like go for months and then hope. But I'm suggesting that you have like a daily or a weekly at least check-in where you return and report. You return and report so frequently that it gets monotonous. But the more you report back to vision that these results you're getting are actually achieving the success that you chose, that you wanted, that you set in action, then the more often you can change your course. You know, you hear these great big jets that go to Hawaii from America, from the mainland. They change courses tens of thousands of times in a 13-hour, 12-hour period. So why wouldn't you need to change courses thousands of times? But if you change your courses and report back to vision twice a year, they're going to be probably drastic big changes with maybe lots of wasted time. Have you ever heard of a college student that they had 20 credits and they realized those credits didn't even help them with the degree they want? So they end up taking 20 other credits before they even get closer to their degree because these took them off course. Well, what if they reported back to the vision of what they wanted in school like every quarter? What if they reported back every week to make sure that they're on track? So I want you to check back at least weekly, but maybe even challenge you daily to report results that you're getting back to the vision to make sure you're on track. And this is where grace is necessary. If you're not on track, shift a little bit. And so you can kind of see my point of the more frequently you check back with your vision, the less change you'll have to make and the smaller the adjustment you'll need to make. I was asked once, like, when I'm producing a result with my plan and I report back to the purpose of the goal or the vision of the goal, what questions can I ask? And so I put together, like, does this goal support my vision? Question number 2, am I acting in integrity with my highest aim in life? Okay, so is my results being produced supporting my highest aim, my governing purpose? Number 3, does the time given to this goal still make sense? Like when I was training for that Ironman, the time that I was given to it did not make sense and I pushed way too far and got sick. Does the energy expended to accomplish this goal make sense? And finally, am I on track with my vision to complete it in the allotted time? And so if there's a marathon in October 7th and it's January 10th, there's a certain amount of miles I've got to get to before the October 7th date, right? Am I on track? Is the stuff that I'm doing producing the results, or do I need to adjust it? Do I need to repent, change course, and adjust? So you can see how you will never fail because you're able to use grace, you're able to use intelligence, you're able to use your purpose to keep yourself on track, and you're able to return and report to vision frequently enough that you're just being honest and learning and growing through this whole process. Even if you completely change a goal, even if you completely change it based on the first quarter of the year, that's not a failure, that's you learned something. So let's say I'm aiming for a marathon, and the marathon I'm aiming for is in April. And I realize, based upon the energy, the time, and what I'm actually committed to do, my body's in bad enough shape right now that it's not going to happen by April, so I adjust it to the October marathon. Okay, there's plenty of things, marathons. And whatever you have to do, as you learn and grow, be willing to change, be willing to adjust the sights. And that's just using wisdom. That's not mediocre, that's wisdom. That's being able to be honest with yourself and clear with the time, energy, and resources you can dedicate to something. Okay, so now the final part of this, now that you understand how to set a goal, I want you to do some things. I want you to avoid some things. And these things that you avoid, there's 5 really specific things that I want you to avoid, okay? If you avoid these 5 things, you might learn other things to avoid that's personal to you, but these are like pretty much for everyone. Avoid setting goals for everyone else. In fact, avoid setting a goal for anyone else. You have to set these goals for you. This is the time to be what maybe you will call selfish. This is for you. You might set a goal to serve others, but that's you committing to serve others. If I set a goal because my wife wants me to get her done, or if I set a goal because I'm being shamed by my buddies, I'm not going to be that committed. I might even begrudgingly do it, but I'm not really being a whole self. So avoid setting a goal for anyone else. Avoid setting a goal that is so big that you can't see all its parts, okay? Avoid setting a goal that is so big that you can't create a vision of all the parts of it, all right? The third one is avoid setting goals that require way too many resources. That Ironman example that I keep using, that first St. George, Utah Ironman way back in the day, is the very first one ever here, and I dedicated way too many hours, way too much of my energy reserves to it, and literally got way sick. Like, I was to the point of being bedridden, that I'd let myself deteriorate trying to get up earlier and earlier so that I could still be a dad and a husband and go to work. And so I was probably sleeping 3 or 4 hours a night. It was just nutty for 3 or 4 months, and then died, just crashed. And so you have to be wise in the resources. What if I decided to put in a 10,000 square foot home gym and just really like fill the house with equipment and spend tons of money, and then all of a sudden I realized I can't do a family vacation, or I can't pay my bills. So you have to be wise. You have to avoid setting goals that absorb, because your goals will try to pull resources, and next thing you know, your goal might become your purpose, which ruins your actual purpose, because you're so hyper focused and myopic in just that portion of your life that it takes too many resources. So it robs you of your higher aim. That's a definite setup for failure, a definite setup for disappointment and a crash. Okay. Another example I've got is just a guy that really wanted to get into softball here. There's baseball here in St. George. It's a big deal. And he was an older guy, wanted to relive some of his childhood memories. He was a great baseball player, loved the game. Signed up for like 2 city leagues and another practice league, and was literally gone so much that his wife dragged him into marriage counseling because she didn't see him anymore. And it was an example of a goal that was good, it was healthy, but it took so many resources from his marriage that his marriage fell apart. And so you got to be really careful not to let your goals ruin higher aims that you have, okay? You have to avoid setting goals that you can't report back to the vision, because it's not clear enough, or you decide you're just going to like see what happens. So avoid setting goals and refusing to return and report frequently, no matter how monotonous that can feel. Return and report, return and report, return and report to that vision statement. And if you do that over and over again, if you do it frequent enough, you'll only have to change courses tiny bits at a time. So achieve a day and then report back. Did that day produce a result that is going to work? Do a week, report back. Did that week's results do what I needed it to do? I honestly don't think I'd suggest going very much farther out than a week. If you start setting your reporting back to your vision monthly or even quarterly, you might have to make some bigger changes and waste time that's too valuable to waste. So there you have it. That is goal setting 2023 and beyond. That is my challenge to you. If you're in a place right now where you're discouraged already about your resolutions for this year, if you're discouraged about maybe past years and you've given up on goals, now's your chance to jump back on it. All right? Have some fun with it. Let me know in the comments section. Do the little workbook that we've got there for you. And I just challenge you to manage your life in a way that you can just enjoy it. And I appreciate you. We'll talk to you again. See you later.